Hello, hi everyone. Welcome back to my JE Physics channel. And in this video, I am going to discuss about electrostatics questions which came in last 5 years. Okay, so I am starting from 2015. So till 2019, I cover all the questions so that you will get some idea how they are asking the questions and what principles we need to apply. Okay, so basically, what I observed in last 5 years. 2019 to 2015 and backwards. So I observed that most of the questions related to electrostatics are formula based, okay, and at the same time most of the questions are related to Gauss law. Even you can find out all the questions. I kept all the questions at one place, and I uploaded the PDF in the Google Drive, and that link has shared in the description box. So first please download that PDF file so that you will get all questions in order, so that I am explaining all the questions over here. So you will get a good overview on these questions so that you will understand how to prepare the electrostatics. So this video is more useful for the students who already completed electrostatics, okay, and about to write down the examinations. So those students will feel this video is more helpful. Okay. So let us start with one question which is related to Gauss law, which is given in the 2015. Okay. So there is a infinitely long wire carrying the charge, linear charge density is lambda, which is kept parallel to y-axis. Now we are taking the one plane which is in the xy plane. This is in xy plane. This is parallel to y-axis, and the distance between this plane and this wire is √3a/2 as given. And dimensions of this rectangle sheet as given L one side, and the other side as given A. A is the other side, dimension, okay. So then we need to identify what is the flux through this plane. So remember, Gauss law uses are two uses are there usually in Gauss law. One is to identify electric field value at a point by using the Gauss law, but to find out the electric field we require symmetrical charge distribution, okay. The second thing is, we can identify the flux through some part by using the Gauss law also. Okay. So let us go with this part first. So what I am doing is, this is the diagram. You need to imagine the things. Now I am rotating the diagram. So if I rotate the diagram, X is coming out. Okay. X will come out, Y will go inside. That will be in the similar manner. Then wire will be into the board. This is the wire. Wire is perpendicular to board now. So as I rotated the diagram, I am able to see the only length part, okay, if I rotate in this way, clockwise. If I rotate anti-clockwise, okay, so then X value will go inside because X is in this direction. Imagine, X is in this direction as I rotate the diagram by anti-clockwise, okay. So then X will be on this direction, okay, Y will come out. Y will come out, and I am able to see the A length. L value will be inside. So this is the wire. So I am rotating the diagram in this way. So then I am able to see the rectangle plate as something like this. This is the rectangle plate. One side I am able to see. Which side I am able to see? A. A I am able to see. L is the length of the sheet which is into the border. Okay. So now this distance has given √3a/2. Now this is a/2 and this is a/2. Now for this diagram I need to identify the total flux value. So for that what I am doing is, I am assuming one cylinder, something like this wire is a center. Then I want to know that what is the angle made by the sheet. For that I am taking as theta angle, and this length is a/2 we know. Then I can go for tan theta value, which is a/2 by √3a/2, opposite side, adjacent side. Then I will get tan theta is equal to 1 by √3, theta value is equal to 30 degree. That means what is the total angle made by the sheet at the center is 60 degree. Now if I am taking the complete cylinder, now cylinder length is L inside. Okay. So L I am unable to see, L is there into the border. Then what is the total flux through cylinder? Total flux through cylinder if I go, now cylinder length is L, Then what is the charge per unit length of the wire is lambda. Then what is the total charge in the cylinder is lambda L. Total charge in the cylinder is lambda L by epsilon naught. This is the Gauss law. Gauss law will tell you the total flux through any closed loop is equal to closed surface is equal to closed surface, not closed loop. Closed surface is equal to what? Charge enclosed by epsilon naught. Charge enclosed is lambda L by epsilon naught. This is the total flux through cylinder. But now we want to identify what is the flux through this, actually this plane is nothing but what is the flux through this 60-degree curvature also. 60-degree curvature flux, and what is the plane flux has to be same. Whatever flux is entering here, same flux has to leave over here also. So 60-degree, total angle is 360. 60-degree means 1/6 of the flux. Okay. For 360-degree angle, we are getting lambda L by epsilon naught. For 60-degree angle, what is the flux value? Then what is the flux coming out of this plane is equal to 1/6 of the total flux value, which is lambda L by epsilon naught. Actually, this is the integer. They ask lambda L by n epsilon naught. What is the n value? Then n value will get 6 directly. Okay. Here we go with the next question, which is also given in 2015. So the question is something like this. There are two infinitely long wires, okay, both are carrying the positive charge density. Like these two diagrams are given. They have given some options. So you can see the question, you can download the PDF from the description box, so that there you can identify the question. Okay. So the question is simple. What is the behavior of the charges which are kept in between the two, linearly charged wires? If I disturb this charged particle, what happens? Whether it will oscillate, whether it will travel in particular direction. So like this question is there, we have to choose an option. So let us go with the first part. Okay, here. Suppose if I displace the charged particle by x amount. Okay, if I displace the charged particle x amount, and the distance between the two wires is d, I am taking. If d is the distance between two wires, then what happens to what is the force acting on the first case? Case 1. This I am taking as first case, and this I am taking as second case. Okay. So now, as I displaced, see this is the equilibrium position. Now charge is here, displaced by x amount. Then this wire and this wire will have different fields. Both the wires will have the fields. So this wire will have one field, and this wire will have the other field. We have to identify the force value. Then how to do it? Now, if I take here, the field value is E1. Field value is E1 because of the first wire. Okay. And because of the second wire, I am taking as field value is E2. Because of second wire, field value is E2. Then which field will be more? Now field U2. So again, as I told you, this question is related to formula based. What is the field due to wire? Infinitely long wire carrying the charge. The field value is equal to lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught into r. This is the field value. Okay. So then we have to apply the same thing over here. Nothing else. So then for the first wire, what is the distance of the charged particle will become d by 2 plus x. For the second wire, it is d by 2 minus x. That means E2 will be more than E1. Okay. So then net force value will be in backward direction. Then what is the value is equal to? Net force value I can write down Q into E2 minus E1. That is the net force value. So net force is equal to Q into E2 minus E1. I can write down that is Q into E2 minus E1. E2 value is equal to how much? Lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught into d by 2 minus x minus of E1 value. Lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught into d by 2 plus x. Okay, so one field, other field. Distance value will be d by 2 plus x for one thing, and d by 2 minus x for the other one. Then net force I can write down. So already net force I have taken in negative opposite direction to the displacement. Means I am calculating the magnitude only, not direction. Okay. So lambda q by 2 pi epsilon naught, if I take outward, common from these two terms, then I will get 1 by d by 2 minus x minus of 1 by d by 2 plus x. Then net force is equal to lambda q by 2 pi epsilon naught into, this is how much? we'll get 2x by d square by 4 minus x square. We know that this is a small displacement, so x square is neglected. So then lambda q by 2 pi epsilon naught into d square by 4 will be there. I can write down 8x by d square. Actually they are not asking any value. They are asking the only what is the motion of the charged particle. Now you can understand that net force is proportional to x. From this, net force is proportional to x. So then A proportional to x and opposite to the displacement also. Then what is the behavior or charged particle motion is simple harmonic motion. Whereas if you see here, then this is a negative charge. As it is a negative charge, now if I am keeping the negative charge over here, same diagram, nothing else, okay? So if it is displaced by x amount, suppose, then E1 will be away, E2 will be away from it, okay? So now charge is negative, as charge is negative, then force will be opposite to that. So displacement is x, the force here, for positive charge force we are getting towards left. For negative charge force will be towards right, net force will be towards right. The displacement and force both are in the same direction. Then negative charge will move in the direction of displacement. If you displace towards right and left, it will travel in the rightward direction, it won't come back. If you displace in leftward and left, then it will go in the leftward direction only. So it will continue, basically it will continue in its motion, okay, in the second case. Whereas in the first case, it will oscillate in simple harmonic motion. Positive charge oscillate in simple harmonic motion, negative charge will continue its motion, okay, so like that you can choose the options. So here we go with the next question in which is given in 2015, which is related to cavity. Most of the students will have doubt related to cavities, okay. So let us discuss that part. So they have given that one sphere with uniform charge density is rho, suppose. Sphere density, it's a what is that non-conducting solid sphere, okay. Cavity is there of radius R2 and sphere radius is R1, okay. Now the distance between the center of the cavity and center of the sphere is A. A is the distance between them, given. This is the given information. So in the options they have given that field is uniform, field is non-uniform, field value depends on A, field value depends on R1. So I didn't write those options. You can directly get from question paper, okay. So then what we are doing is basically we are looking out for an idea. So then how to solve this question, okay, that is the logic. So before solving this question, what you have to know is, suppose there is a one non-conducting sphere. Again, in the starting of the video I told you that these questions are basically depends on the formula, how you are remembering the formulas, okay. Once you are remembering the formulas, then you will get a some gateway to solve the questions, okay. Let us see. I am supposing that this is the center and I am taking randomly, I am taking the one point P at a distance of R. Total charge on the sphere is Q. Then what is the field at a point inside the sphere, non-conducting sphere? The field value we know that field value is equal to Q by 4 pi epsilon naught R cube into smaller. This is the field value we know, okay. So this little I am changing, that field value is equal to, which is field magnitude. Field direction is radial outward. This is the field direction. So the field magnitude I can write down. This is Q by 4 by 3 pi epsilon naught, okay, R cube into R by 3, because 3 I have taken additionally, 3 and 3 has to be cancelled out. So why I am writing in this, because Q by 4 by 3 pi R cube. 4 by 3 pi R cube is volume. Charge by volume, I will get the what? Charge density. So I want to change in terms of rho terms. That's right. So field is equal to Q by 4 by 3 pi R cube, which is nothing but rho, into R by 3 epsilon naught. This is the field value, field magnitude. And what is the field direction? Suppose that if I am taking, this is the vector R bar. Instead of R, I am writing now R bar. Then field vector and R bar vector, both are in the same direction. And magnitude is depends on R. So I can write down the field vector is equal to rho into R bar by 3 epsilon naught. Okay, if I take the R magnitude, field magnitude and R magnitude, you will get the field is equal to rho into R by 3 epsilon naught. So basically you require this idea to solve this question. or this formula to solve this question. Okay, so then how to do it? Let us see. Now what is the cavity means? Cavity means we are removing some sphere from the original sphere. From the original sphere we are removing some sphere. So what is the field at any point? I can write down the field due to original minus field due to removed. So this is one logic I used to tell to my students, that whenever you want to identify any quantity related to objects, some part of the object is removed, then you find out the quantity due to original one minus quantity due to removed part, then automatically you will get the quantity because of remaining part. Okay, so let us see here now. So this is the cavity, suppose. Okay, so you can take this completely sphere. Now I'm not drawing the complete sphere. This is the center of the sphere, and this is the center of the cavity. So distance between those two centers I'm taking as A, which is C1 and C2. For example, this is C1 and this is C2. Okay. Now randomly I'm taking the one point P where I want to find out the field inside the cavity. So this is the R vector I'm taking from the cavity center. I mean, from the center cavity I'm taking the R vector. Now I am taking the one more position vector R dash, which is from the center of the original sphere. So P point, I have taken two position vectors. One is from C1, other one is from C2. Okay, from C2 I am taking as R bar, from C1 I am taking as R dash bar. Now this is one vector and this is other vector. What I do is I want to find out the first field due to total sphere. Okay, field due to total sphere I am writing as E naught bar, which is total sphere means original sphere. Field due to entire original sphere I am writing as E naught bar, which I can write down rho into R1 bar by R dash. R dash bar by 3 epsilon naught. Why? Because C1 is the center of total sphere. Now at a point I want to find out the field due to total sphere, means no removing of cavity. Okay, so cavity is filled. Complete sphere I am taking, no cavity is there. So then R1 is the R dash is the position vector. As R dash is the position vector, field value I can write down rho into R dash by 3 epsilon naught. Now if I am taking the only cavity part, so forget about the remaining part. Only cavity is filled with some material and density is rho. Then what is the field it will give at P point? Field presents. What is the field value present at P point because of this cavity, removing part? That I can write down rho into, again that is point also inside the sphere. So I can write down rho into R bar by 3 epsilon naught. So simply we are applying a formula where field inside the sphere, solid sphere. We are finding field due to entire sphere, we are finding field due to cavity. So as we are removing the cavity field will be lost, so remaining field will be there. Okay. So this is the field due to cavity at a point. This is the field due to entire original sphere. Then what is the field due to remaining part? Field due to remaining part is equal to, means cavity part is removed. Cavity part removed means this field will be lost. So then I can write down E naught bar minus E dash bar. I think you got the logic. So that is equal to, what I can write down, rho by 3 epsilon naught I can take out. Then E naught bar minus E bar, which is R dash bar minus R bar. Okay, so here you will find the logic of the question. Okay, so this part you need to understand. So what is that? So this is, we know the R dash vector, we know the R vector. Now what I am taking as C1 C2 vector, which is whose magnitude is A bar. So if it is C1 C2 vector, okay, C1 C2 vector, then I can write down these two vectors C1 C2 bar plus R bar should be equal to R dash bar by vector addition. Okay, A bar plus B bar is equal to C bar. Then I can write down C1 C2 bar is equal to R dash bar minus R bar. So I can write down this value is equal to rho by 3 epsilon naught into, so finally I can write down the net field due to remaining part at any point is equal to field due to remaining part, which is rho by 3 epsilon naught multiplied with C1 C2 bar. So field is C1 C2 bar is a constant vector, which is A bar. Magnitude is A. You can write down as A bar also. I think in the question they have given A bar. So rho by 3 epsilon naught into A bar. Okay, so field is uniform. It depends on the along the line joining the C1 C2. Field inside the cavity is uniform. Okay. At the same time, field direction is uniform. Okay, in the direction of C1 C2. Field magnitude also constant, which is rho A by 3 epsilon naught. So what we need to understand from this, the field inside the cavity depends on the distance between the centers, center of the original sphere and center of the cavity. And field direction depends on line joining the C1 C2. Okay, whatever be the direction you are getting C1 to C2, in that line only you will get the field direction also. Okay, both of them will be same. At same time, so extending that part, field is independent of R bar, field is independent of R dash bar also. It does not depend on the what point you are taking. Obviously, as it is uniform, you take any point inside the cavity, you will get the same result. So here we go with next question, which is given in 2017. So we didn't get any question in the 2016 year. From 2016 we didn't get any question from the electrostatics. Okay. So from 2017 this is a question given. What is that? There is a one hemisphere. Okay. And a positive charge Q is kept just above the surface. Now basically they have given 4 different options. Okay. In that, first option is electric flux through curved part. What is the electric flux through curved part? What is the electric flux through entire sphere? Okay. And what about the electric field magnitude over the flat surface, whether it is uniform or not? So question is related to something like that. And they have given one more option, every point on the circumference here. Every point on the circumference is equipotential. That is the other option is given. Okay. So the fourth option is very easy to identify. Every point on the circumference will be equipotential because the distance of the charge to the every point is same. So that will be equipotential. That is easy to identify. But what is the electric flux through curved part? See, to find out the electric flux through curved part, actually we need to find out the field at different points. So that is actually a tedious job. Okay. So how to solve this flux through curved part? For that there is one formula to remember again. Okay. So most of the times I am saying that remembering of formulas because they will help you to solve the question very easily. Suppose there is a one disk and there is a one charge Q, and suppose if I am adding every point of the disk is to the charge. Okay. So that makes a one what is it, that cone. That cone angle is theta suppose. Then flux through this part is, okay, field direction will be something like this. What is the total flux through disk? Total flux through disk is given by Q by 2 epsilon naught into 1 minus cos theta. Okay. So theta is the angle, apex angle you can say, semi-vertex angle formed by the disk at the charge. So if you can understand this, or if you remember this, what is that formula, then you can solve this question. How? Let us see. Suppose if I am taking the entire this hemisphere and this is the charge kept. Now charge is not in the hemisphere, it is outside the hemisphere. Then what is the total flux value I can write down? I can write down total flux value is equal to 0. That means flux through curved surface, flux through flat surface together will be 0. Okay. So flux through curved surface is somewhat tough to identify. Then what is the flux through flat surface? Flat surface we can identify. Now charge is at a distance of r. If I am adding charge to the every point, periphery point of the flat, okay, so then that makes an angle. This is r also, r and r, so angle should be 45. Now this is related to this. Charge is kept, there is a disk, okay. If disk is making angle theta at the charge, okay, vertex angle, semi-vertex angle. So then what is the flux value? Q by 2 epsilon naught into 1 minus cos theta. So similarly this is making an angle 45, so I can write down and moreover see, this field is away from it. Even if I am taking the area vector for the flat surface, that is also away, which will come downward direction. Then angle made by the field vector and area vector is less than 90, so then you will get the positive flux. So whereas flux through curved surface obviously you will get negative flux, because you will get the angles more than what is it, that 90, something like this. Suppose if I am taking the point over here, this is the field direction at that place, and what is it, that like this ds factor will be there. So most of the times you will get what is that more than 90 angles. It's a what is that approximate way to understand the things, nothing else. So here you will get positive flux, that you need to understand. Plus now q by 2 epsilon naught. Now I am writing the formula. 1 minus cos 45 is equal to 0. Then what is the flux to curved surface? I can write down minus of q by 2 epsilon naught into 1 minus 1 by root 2. So directly this value is there in one option. So you can identify the flux through curved surface. Now what about the field at any point of the flat surface is constant? So obviously that's not the correct answer. Why? Because this is the flat surface and this is the charge. Charge is exactly above the center. If I take one point here at a distance of x, then I will get one field value. If I take one more point at a distance of some y, I will get some other field value. So these two fields are not same because one is x distance, other is y distance, or one distance is root of x square plus r square, other distance is root of y square plus r square. So even you two are not same and different directions also. So that's why you don't get along the flat surface field is constant. So the field is variable if you take different points on the flat surface. Okay, and every point on the ring of that flat surface will be at equipotential because every point will be at a distance of root 2r. This is r, this is r, and this is r. So this distance will become root 2r. Just like as I told you cone, the distance will be same. So the potentials will be same.